So let's define. Let's assume, for purposes of discussion, I'm a square, you're a hip. What's a hip? What does hip mean? What is this philosophy you are propounding?
Well, to begin with, as I've indicated, it's a kind of existentialism. And the reason I say that I was certainly not the first hipster, nor the first, that I didn't create hip, is that hip really comes from, I think, the unstated, tacit philosophical experience of the Negro. It was a view of life which they evolved to deal with the extraordinary conditions of their life. Because the Negro, after all, particularly in the last 20 years, has been living in the most extraordinary and marginal relation to American life. He's admired enormously by a few white people. He's generally feared, tolerated, put up with, or even championed by a vast majority of whites who have little understanding of him. And so he lives in a peculiar kind of no man's land. Now, I think it's exactly the people who live in no man's land who become existentialists one way or another. Because as I keep going back to this point, there is nothing from the culture of the past they can depend upon. They begin to live in what I call an enormous present. The present is the only thing that has enormous meaning to them. The future cannot be calculated in any way at all that makes any sense. And the past tends to drop away. As a matter of fact, one of the things I think that almost characterizes most hipsters is that they have a very poor memory. It's even gone into the language a bit. If you look at the style of the language, it's an abstract language.
The hip lives in a no man's land of the present. What does that mean? That he ignores his responsibilities as a member of the community?
He doesn't feel them at all in the same way. To leap into this a little bit too quickly, perhaps, he feels that there's no particular reason why he should collaborate with society. In other words, he doesn't obey the social contract. He doesn't think of himself as a responsible member of the community who must give a certain part of his work and his, if you will, his goodness to the community, and in return the community...
He's an outlaw.
Yes, of a sort. He's an outlaw without a horse and without a gun, usually, and he's a little bit like the man who used to live on the Wild West. You know, the gun for hire.
Well, you know what happened with him.
Yeah.
He became an extinct breed.
That's right.
And is this, now we are jumping, and we'll get back to what philosophy to what the hip philosophy means in a moment. In other words, you're suggesting that the hip is an outlaw without a past, without a future, simply existing for himself at the present moment, regardless of the consequences or regardless of how he acts or reacts upon other people and the community as a whole.
Yes.